Can you remind me?
Yeah. So we had left off where someone had asked Baba the question that, what do you make of the existing traditions? And then he had replied that basically that, he's already described it earlier, how he feels that the traditions are absolutely rotten. By traditions, he says the seat of education, the seat of religion, the seat of governance, and the seat of business. All four of these systems and structures are absolutely rotten to the core. And he says that they are no longer worthy of human consumption. So I engage not with the traditions, I engage with people, because even people engaged in all of them are still more than 50% good. So there's no point in my trying to improve the tradition. I engage with the human beings. But with them, I have a connection.
Right.
With them, I have a context. So this is what he was saying. And then you had a question about this thing about tradition being rotten. You remember?
Yeah, I don't know the question right now, but maybe
Okay.
we'll come back.
Okay. No, I remember though. You were
Oh,
asking.
you can say it.
You were asking. He at one point he says that he kind of that there have been like 100 strokes by humans, and this is the final stroke that has resulted in this outcome that he got this knowledge. At one level, he says that, and then at another level, he also says that these traditions are absolutely rotten. So, which, like, how do these fit together? I think that's what you were asking.
Yes, right.
All right. So I think how I understand that is that he says that there have been sincere efforts throughout human history across all traditions. There have been several sincere efforts, but not complete efforts. But the sincerity of those efforts is has been true, and whatever that sincerity resulted in got somehow passed down, got distorted, got lost out, but still in some distorted form or the other, at some level it's still reached. In the Manavivahar Darshan, in the first the preface, actually, he talks about gratitude, and he says he expresses his gratitude towards all those sources of meaningfulness, um, उन सभी no all those sources of the right path from whom the sorry, all those demonstrators of the right path from whom the sources of meaningfulness are still alive. That means there are still places and people of sincerity who are still kind of, expressing the sincere meanings that they have seen or understood, and are then therefore passing it forward. Although it is not complete, and although it is not, and therefore not free of distortions of the reality, but there is still some real meaningfulness that is getting expressed in different ways. And he expresses his gratitude towards all of these sources of meaningfulness. Um, but those you can find in individuals. When those very individuals who are sincere and have some insight and have some meaningful understanding, when they try to participate in any of these systems, whether the system is of our, state political governance, or it's a system of religious structures, or it's a system of the education system or the business system, whenever even people of sincere efforts try to participate in those, because these systems are completely hollowed out of all meaning and all actual value, they are they are not able to incorporate their individual values into that system. So there are always these contradictions that exist. The individual might have lots bits of sincerity in them, but when they participate in the system doesn't have hold that sincerity. So that's I think that is how I understand that
Right. Yeah,
stage,
that makes sense.
because we see it also in around us. But people who
Yeah.
start out with such good intentions and sincerity, but they come into the system and then they feel like, well, this is how the world works. You can't. This is how the ball rolls, and you can't be idealistic about it or intellectual about it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just that are rotten.
Yeah, true.
Okay.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah, makes sense.
हरिहर, एक तरफ तो आप परंपराओं को सड़ी हुई बताते हैं, जबकि दूसरी तरफ आदमी उसी परंपरा में पक करके आया हुआ है होते हैं। इन दोनों में जिज्ञासा का आदि में बैठा हुआ जो व्यक्ति होते अपने
Okay, let's just listen to this section again, because anyway, when this was covered, neither of you were there in that session, and since you were just discussing it, it'll be interesting.
अभी चार परंपरा की बात की वजह से सड़ा हुआ होना चाहिए, आप कहे, जबकि दूसरी तरफ तो आप परंपराओं को सड़ी हुई बताते हैं, जबकि दूसरी तरफ आदमी उसी परंपरा में पक करके आया हुआ है, तो आदमी को भी उस परंपरा में पकने की वजह से सड़ा हुआ होना चाहिए।
So he's asking, at one level, you call the traditions completely rotten, and on the other hand, all the humans have gone through these very traditions and have ripened through these very traditions. So then those humans should also be rotten.
तो आदमी को भी उस परंपरा में पकने की वजह से सड़ा हुआ होना चाहिए। आप कहते हैं कि तब भी आदमी 50% से अधिक सार्थक है। इस आदमी के सार्थक होने से आपका क्या आशय है?
And yet you say that these very humans who should have been completely rotten, having gone through the rotten systems, that such humans are more than 50% meaningful. So what do you mean? What do you mean when you say that they are more than 50% meaningful?
मेरा आशय ये है, अभी आपको ये बिल्कुल स्पष्ट समझ में आएगा, तो अभी चार परंपरा की बात कही गई है।
So my implication, he asked, what were you implying when you say that they're 50% good? He says, what I'm implying is that is something that you will also understand. These four traditions that I have talked about,
इन परंपरा में अपने को सुधार की कोई जिज्ञासा नहीं है।
So these traditions have no thirst or curiosity for improving themselves. These traditions don't have this thirst.
परंपरा का मतलब गद्दी परस्तों को,
And by tradition, I mean those who are, who are seated on those seats of powers in each of these four traditions. They have no need to improve themselves or the tradition they're coming from.
जो गद्दी में बैठा हुआ जो व्यक्ति होते हैं और गद्दी के रूप में जो दस्तावेज होते हैं, इन दोनों में जिज्ञासा का आधार नहीं है।
So those who are seated in the seats of power in these four traditions, and also the literature, documents, and treaties involved in all of these traditions, none of them have any scope, need, or room for improvement. They don't feel any need for improvement.
इस आधार पर वो सड़ चुका है।
On this basis, they are completely rotten. So when something is flawed and yet does not feel the need for improvement, he's saying that then you can say that it is completely rotten, because there is no hope there, there is no scope there. And it is those people in seats of power and the documents that are, basically the structures of any institution or traditions are in the form of their written constitutions or their written rules of law within, whether it's the religious institutions or the political institutions or the educational institutions or the business institutions. Their norms, their written rules, laws, constitutions, none of those have any scope for self-improvement or need or hope for self-improvement. So they are rotten.
तो जबकि इसका विपरीत हर मनुष्य में कोई ना कोई कोने में जिज्ञासा का उदय रखा हुआ ही है।
Whereas, contrary to this, within each and every human being, in some corner of their being, there remains the hope and possibility for the quest to improve, for the curiosity to improve.
जिसको हमने देखा है, इस आधार पर मैं कहता हूँ 51% हर मनुष्य ठीक है, 51% से अधिक ठीक है, और ये पूरा सड़ चुका है.
Which is something that I have seen. And that is why I say that human beings are 51% okay, that they are more than 51% okay, in fact, whereas these traditions are completely rotten.
इस आधार पर कहता हूँ, इसमें कहाँ तक आप सम्मत हैं, असम्मत हैं, आप बता सकते हैं.
That is the basis on which I say this. And regarding this, how far you find yourself in agreement or in disagreement is something you can declare for yourself.
बाबा, आपने अभी जो आपकी वीडियो रिकॉर्डिंग हुई उसको हम लोग सुनते रहे, उसमें आपने विकास की बातें की हैं. हम लोग तो किसी गांव में सड़क हो जाना, बिजली लग जाना, अस्पताल स्कूल बन जाना, या कुछ आर्थिक आमदनी का बढ़ जाना, इसको हम लोग विकास कहते हैं.
So he says, Baba, this recording that we have done with you of the entire session that we have been watching, in that you have spoken about development. Now, wherever we live, in whichever village we come from, what we consider development is when some road is built, some infrastructure is developed, some school is built, or some sort of economic progress occurs. That is what we call development.
आपने इस जीवन विद्या के प्रकाश में अस्तित्व को जैसा देखा, तो विकास से आपका स्पष्ट रूप से आशय क्या है?
But the way that you have seen development in light of this Jeevan Vidya, the way that you have seen development in existence in light of this Jeevan Vidya, what exactly do you mean by that development, really?
ये बहुत साधारण बात है, इस रिकॉर्डिंग में भी वो स्पष्ट हुई है. ये एक बहुत ही शुभ बात आपने कहा है.
So this is a very straightforward issue, which has also been clarified within this recording. You have said something very meaningful, something very good, which is?
जो अभी तक की मान्यता में आप में मुझ में कोई अंतर नहीं, इसमें हम सम्मत हैं.
That what has been believed up till now, in that there is no difference between what you are saying and what I am saying. That we are in agreement, which means that they're both saying that up till now people have considered development to be material progress.
सड़क बन जाए, रेल लग जाए, गाड़ी हो जाए, मोटर हो जाए, दवाखाना बन जाए, डाक खाना बन जाए.
You know, building a road, building railways, building a hospital, post office, things like that.
गाड़ी हो जाए, मोटर हो जाए, दवाखाना बन जाए, डाक खाना बन जाए, ठीक है ना. उसके बाद अभी ये कह रहे हैं हर एक तहसील में एक जेल बनना है.
And so you know, have hospitals and cars and vehicles, and nowadays they're even saying that there being a jail in every single district is also a sign of development. Pasha?
Sorry.
विकास.
Huh?
No, sorry. I just laughed. I didn't know I was on mute.
Okay. No, it's nice to have people unmuted that way. I can also hear. It's like then we're like sitting around each other, and you can hear the response.
Okay.
Unless there's a machine in the background, which
Yeah.
I have often.
का आधार बता रहे हैं. आपको ये ध्यान दिलाना में एक जेल बनना है, ये विकास का आधार बता रहे हैं. आपको ये ध्यान दिलाना चाहते.
So these days, even having a jail built in each district is being considered the basis for development. This is something I'm drawing your attention to.
और कोई इसके ऊपर हम कुछ कहेंगे नहीं, ये ऐसा कह रहे हैं भाई. और कई तहसीलों में जेल बन चुकी है.
So I won't comment on this any further. I'm just drawing your attention to the fact that they're actually saying things like that, and that several districts have jails built within them also.
मैं आपको याद दिलाना चाहते हैं,
So I'm just trying to remind you of this fact.
ये सबको ये विकास मानते हैं। और दूसरा, चमकता हुआ मकान बन जाए, इसको विकास कहते हैं।
So all of these things is what they consider to be development. And then secondly, to have a beautiful sparkling house, that is also considered development.
आप भी समझते हैं, मैं भी समझता हूँ, ये अभी तक की परंपरा में ऐसे ही नजरिया है।
So you're also in agreement and I'm also in agreement that this is the perspective held in the tradition up till now.
इसमें तो राय नहीं।
There's no two ways on this. I mean, there's no difference in our opinion on this.
और इन नजरिया के प्रति हमारा बहुत बड़ी भारी विरोध भी नहीं है। ये सब मनुष्य को सामान्य आकांक्षा, महत्वाकांक्षा संबंधी जो चाहिए साधन, उसके क्रम में ये सब समाहित होते ही।
And then now I don't have any major conflict or major contradiction against such a perspective, because all of these things fall under our basic aspirations and higher aspirations, and they are all included within our basic aspirations and natural aspirations.
जो चाहिए साधन, उसके क्रम में ये सब समाहित होते ही।
Sorry, he's saying, so the basic resources that we need for our basic and higher aspirations, all of these that have been listed by the prevalent tradition fall within the resources needed to fulfill our basic and higher aspirations. Therefore, I have not had any major opposition to this view.
ये बात भी समझ में आया है हमको।
That much also I have understood.
किंतु इसको उपयोग करने के क्रम में उपयोग, सदुपयोग, दुरुपयोग, ये इस ढंग की काम है ये।
However, in terms of utilizing all of these, there is utilization, there is right utilization, and there is misuse. So there is use, there is right use, and there is misuse of all of these resources.
तो इन सबको सदुपयोग करने के लिए हम सामाजिक चेतना की आवश्यकता है।
So in order to use all of these resources well, for that we need a social consciousness. We have to become sociable people.
यांत्रिक चेतना से हम कहीं ना कहीं गलती और अपराध में ही चले जाएंगे।
With a mechanical consciousness, we will somehow or the other fall into mistakes and crimes.
इसीलिए मानव को कहीं ना कहीं माने व्यवहारिक चेतना, सामाजिक चेतना, व्यवस्थात्मक चेतना की आवश्यकता है। इस चेतना को भरपाई करने की क्रम में ही ये जीवन विद्या का एक प्रस्ताव रखा है।
So humans, somewhere or the other, humans need a behavioral consciousness, a social consciousness, or a systemic consciousness. And it is for the fulfillment of this need that my proposal has been presented before you.
इसके बाद शिक्षा का मानवीकरण एक प्रस्ताव है। इसके बाद परिवार मूलक स्वराज्य व्यवस्था एक प्रस्ताव है।
And after that, the humanization of education is a proposal. And after that, the family rooted self-governing order also is a proposal. So first is to, change your consciousness, which is through Jeevan Vidya, which is through understanding the Jeevan. Then you move into then the proposal is to move into humanization of education. And finally, the orderly living, which is rooted in the family order. These are three proposals he's coming up with.
इन तीनों प्रस्ताव के आधार पर यदि अपन नजरिया डालें, यही वस्तुएं थोड़ा सा उपयोग से ज्यादा लगने लगता है, ज्यादा दिन तक यही वस्तुएं चलने योग्य होते हैं।
So if you start viewing these resources with such a perspective, then the same amount, the same quantity of these objects can end up lasting for much longer. You end up requiring much less over a much longer period of time.
धरती को कम से कम घायल करने वाली बात आती है।
And in that way, we are able to damage the earth very minimally.
ये पूरा का पूरा धरती से ना हमको उपलब्ध होता है। जितना कम से कम धरती को घायल करें, उतने ही हम ज्यादा से ज्यादा दिन तक टिकाऊ होते हैं। अन्यथा धरती को ही बर्बाद करके आदमी कहाँ रहेगा?
Because all of these resources that we consider development, all of these are obtained from this planet, right? And if we were to damage this planet, then where would we go? Let me just listen.
जितना कम से कम धरती को घायल करें, उतने ही हम ज्यादा से ज्यादा दिन तक टिकाऊ होते।
As little damage as we do to the planet is as long as we will continue to last on it.
होते हैं, अन्यथा धरती को ही बर्बाद करके आदमी कहाँ रहेगा?
Because, and if not that, then if we destroy the planet, then where will human beings even live?
इस नजरिया से इस प्रकार से कहा गया।
So that is how I have said this using this perspective.
मनुष्य का विकास का प्रमाण, मनुष्य विकसित हो गया, इसका प्रमाण एक ही है, तो परिवार में समाधान और समृद्धि को प्रमाणित कर सके।
The evidence of development in humans, how do we know that a human being has developed, is when they are able to evidence resolution and prosperity within the family.
ये सार्थक हुआ और हर मनुष्य स्वायत्त हो सके, जो अर्थात समझदार हो सके, ये प्रमाणित हुआ।
So that is meaningful. Then each human being, if they are able to become autonomous, that is, they're able to become knowledgeable, then that can be evidenced.
होते ही है।
And it does happen.
और जो समाज बने, इसका क्या अर्थ है? अखंड समाज में मानव जाति को एक ही जाति के रूप में हम समझ सके, व्यवहार कर सके, मूल्यांकन कर सके।
Then we are able to form an actual society. What does that mean? That we are able to see all of humankind as one single race, and we are able to live in that way, behave with each other in that way.
एक ही जाति के रूप में हम समझ सके, व्यवहार कर सके, मूल्यांकन कर सके।
That we are able to understand all of humankind to be one single race and are able to behave with one another accordingly and evaluate one another accordingly.
Okay, सामाजिक हुए।
So that would mean, that is what would mean that we have become sociable, really.
और व्यवस्था का मतलब हम अभी पहले से बताया है, जो पांचों आयामों में भागीदारी कर सके।
And the meaning of system or order is something that we have already talked about, that the human being is able to participate in all the 5 dimensions, contribute in all the 5 dimensions of human living. The 5 dimensions, as he's already mentioned, were education and inculcation, then production, exchange or trade, then justice and health. These are the 5 dimensions. If a human being is contributing and participating in all of these 5, then you could say that they are living in orderliness or are living in a systemic way.
उस स्थिति में हम व्यवस्था में जीते ही हैं, समग्र व्यवस्था में भागीदारी कर ही रहे हैं।
So in that state, when we're participating in this way, that in that state we are living in orderliness and we are participating in the larger order.
ये हमारा मनुष्य की विकास का मतलब है।
This is the meaning of the development in a human being.
इसको हम जागृति भी कहते हैं, ठीक है? और सामाजिक भी कहते हैं।
So it is this that we also call awakening. It is this which we also call being sociable,
व्यवहारिक भी कहते हैं, व्यवस्था भी कहते हैं।
which is what we also call behavioral and orderly. So he said, no, evolution is becoming sociable, becoming behavioral, becoming orderly, and becoming awakened. All of these mean the same thing. So enlightenment or awakening doesn't mean that you are detached from what exists. It means you are attached and sociable and participative and contributive.
ये व्यवहारिकता के मतलब है। अभी तक व्यवहारिकता का मतलब ये रहे जिससे ज्यादा पैसा मिले, ज्यादा सुविधा मिले, इसको व्यवहारिक मानी गई थी।
So this is the meaning of sociability. Up till of behavioralness rather, sorry. Up till now, what was considered behavioral, or rather, I think another word that is more prevalently used is pragmatic. This is up till now, what is considered behavioral or pragmatic is take as much as you can from someone.
ज्यादा पैसा मिले, ज्यादा सुविधा मिले, इसको ये व्यवहारिकता के मतलब है। अभी तक व्यवहारिकता का मतलब ये रहे जिससे ज्यादा पैसा मिले, ज्यादा सुविधा मिले, इसको व्यवहारिक मानी गई।
So up till now, what was considered behavioral or what was considered practical or pragmatic was taking as much money or as much resource from others.
जैसे आपने भी कहा है, ये सब चीज मिल गया तो मैंने व्यवहारिक हो गई, ऐसे सोचते थे।
For instance, this is what you have also said, that others say, that if we obtain all these objects or resources or materials, then that is considered to be better or considered to be progress.
इसी को विकास मानते थे।
And that is what was considered to be development.
जबकि इसमें विकास का कोई सुख तो मिला नहीं।
Whereas no satisfaction of development is obtained from this much. From just accumulating all these resources, we get no satisfaction of having developed.
ये तो बात साक्षी थे, तो छोटी सी बात है ये।
So that much is something which is testified to. It is such a small thing.
विकास का सुख मिलता तो अभी भी मान लेते, कहाँ मिल पाता है?
Because had we obtained the satisfaction of development from this much, then we would have considered ourselves to be developed in this much, right? You go to the most developed nations and they're still striving for something better because they haven't felt that satisfaction of having developed, because that is not development to begin with. Infrastructure and material progress is not development.
वो तो मिलता नहीं है। और सुख मिलने के लिए चारों चीज चाहिए, समाधान भी चाहिए, समृद्धि चाहिए, अभय चाहिए, सहअस्तित्व चाहिए।
So you don't get that satisfaction. That is something we've all witnessed and there's testimony to it. Because for that satisfaction, we need all four things. What do we need? We need resolution, we need prosperity, we need fearlessness or trust in society, and we need coexistence.
ये चारों पदार्थ के बिना चौमुखी हमको सुख तो मिलने वाला नहीं है।
Without all four of these elements, there is no way that we will find this happiness.
आप हम कुछ भी कर लें,
No matter what we do.
तो इसीलिए मानव का विकास को हम जो मूल्यांकन करने के लिए ध्रुवीकरण जो होती है, ये मानव का उद्देश्य है।
Therefore, when we try to bring about development among humans, then this
करने के लिए ध्रुवीकरण जो होती है, ये मानव का उद्देश्य है।
Then this is the axis to it, the axis of human development, or the central pole of human development. And the need for it is because development is our objective. something like that.
मानव का उद्देश्य पूर्ति होती है तो मानव विकसित हुआ, ऐसा कहना चाहिए।
Okay, sorry. He was saying these 4 things, resolution, prosperity, fearlessness, and coexistence, are the axis of human development because these 4 are the objectives of humans. All humans desire to achieve, to be resolved, to be prosperous, to be fearless, and to be coexistential. And until those objectives or those goals are met, we cannot feel satisfaction, we cannot feel happiness. And therefore, it is only when we attain our goals, our objectives, our innate desires, that we can say that we have developed. So that's what he's saying, that our goals, meeting our goals will be considered true development. And these are our human goals, natural human goals.
ये इसी में हम सार्थक हो पाते हैं। अभी जिस जगह में वह विकास का मंजिल बनाए हैं, इस जगह में हम सार्थक होना तो नहीं हुआ।
It is only if these 4 things are our goals that we can actually meaningfully attain them. If we try to attain any other goals like we have been trying to, considering anything else to be development, then we won't find those attempts to be successful, to become meaningful. Because it is only possible to find success in that which is naturally defined, naturally possible.
जय हो मंगल हो कल्याण।
Jai Ho Mangal Ho Kalyan Ho. This is basically like a final sort of statement that we can only be successful in attaining these natural human universal goals, and that will be development. It is not possible to succeed at any other sort of development. And then let there be victory, let there be welfare, let there be well-being.
एक बहुत प्रसिद्ध वैज्ञानिक हुआ डार्विन, उसने भी विकासवाद की बात कही है और आज विज्ञान जगत में उसका विकासवाद जो है लगभग स्वीकृत है कुछ चुनौतियों के साथ।
So there has been a very well-known scientist. His name is Darwin, and he also talked about evolution. In Hindi, the word for evolution and development are both vikas. So Darwin also spoke of vikas or evolution, and which is now widely accepted within the scientific world.
तो डार्विन ने जो कुछ किया, आपकी परिभाषा से या आपके प्रतिपादन से ऐसा नहीं लगता कि डार्विन ने जैसा प्रतिपादित किया है उसको हम विकास कहें।
So whatever Darwin spoke of, it doesn't seem from your definition of development that is what we would call evolution as such. That is not what you seem to be calling evolution.
तो डार्विन ने जो किया उसको आप क्या कहेंगे, या उसके विकासवाद की जो अवधारणा है उससे जो परमाणु में विकास की बात जो आपने की है वो किस तरह से भिन्न है और उस संबंध में आप क्या कहना चाहेंगे?
So what would you call what Darwin has talked about, and how is it different from the development within the atom or the evolution within the atom that you have talked about?
Very good, बहुत बढ़िया।
He says very good. Good question.
ये एक मार्मिक प्रश्न हो सकती है।
So this can be a very very important question.
बहुत संगीन प्रश्न बनाया आपने, धन्यवाद।
You have come up with a very subtle question. Thank you for that. Or important. I'm not sure what Sangeet really means.
Like pertinent?
Pertinent, yeah.
देखिए, इसमें बहुत थोड़ा सा नजरिया की खेल है ये।
So see, there is something to do with perspective. This is all a matter of perspective.
डार्विन जो कुछ भी अपने को प्रस्तुत किया, शरीर रचना के आधार पर विकास को प्रस्तुत किया।
So all that Darwin presented, he presented evolution on the basis of bodily structure, bodily configuration.
पहला चोट इतने ही है।
That is the first that is the first wound. That is the first error, probably.
जैसा एक कीड़े का रचना, एक केवाच का रचना, एक जौ का रचना और गाय का रचना, घोड़ा का रचना, शरीर का।
For instance, the bodily configuration of an insect, of an earthworm, of a louse, of a, a slug, of a cow, of a horse, of a dog.
भला तो वैसे ही मनुष्य की शरीर रचना।
So similarly, the bodily composition of a human being.
इन शरीर रचनाओं में आधार बनाया हड्डियों को।
And in this bodily composition, what was made the basis was simply the bones.
तो हड्डियां जो है किस प्रकार से, कितना लंबा कितना चौड़ा होने से ये विकास हुआ।
So, based on how long or how wide the bones of the skeleton of each creature was, that was considered to be development, or that was considered to be evolution.
मनुष्य का शरीर को ध्रुव मान लिया उन्होंने, मनुष्य का शरीर की रचना को आधार मान लिया, ये इसके पीछे की शरीर रचनाओं को जोड़ते गए।
So they considered the human body to be the fulcrum, and then the composition of the human body became the fulcrum, and then from that they extrapolated to all the other bodily structures of other animals.
इसके बाद ये बनाए, इसके बाद ये बनाए, इसके बाद ये,
that this came before this came before the other, that came before the other. They extrapolated.
बना, ऐसा वो कहते हैं।
That is what they say.
उनका शरीर रचना के पक्ष में कहना कोई तकलीफ नहीं है।
But saying all this in context of the human body, of the bodily structure, is no problem.
मानव के अर्थ में कहना पूरा तकलीफ अभी तक प्रमाणित हुआ नहीं।
But saying this in context of human beings, that is completely problematic. That has never been evidenced.
ना कभी होने वाला है।
Nor will it be evident. Sorry.
क्यों नहीं होने वाला? जीवन ज्ञान डार्विन को था नहीं।
Why will it not be evidenced? Because Darwin didn't have the knowledge of the Jeevan.
जीवन ज्ञान के कोई एक ध्रुव रूप में मान करके उन्होंने कुछ कहा ही नहीं है।
They have not said, he has not said anything based on an understanding, or based on rooted in an understanding of the Jeevan.
जीवन और शरीर का संयुक्त रूप में ही मानव होता है।
Now the human being is only as a composite of the Jeevan and the body.
अभी भी जो कोई भी विकास को खोजते हैं, जो शरीर की शरीर संबंधी, वो हड्डियों को ही खोजते हैं।
Even now, all the sort of evolution that is sought out, they are still seeking out evolution at the level of bones, at the level of the skeleton.
हड्डियों में ही नृतत्व को खोजते हैं।
हड्डियों में किसको खोजते हैं? नृतत्व।
वो हड्डियों को ही खोजते हैं।
So they're still looking for the bones. They're still looking for नृतत्व in the bones.
हड्डियों में ही नृतत्व को खोजते हैं, और उसके लिए नोबेल प्राइज होता है, डिग्रियां होते हैं, नौकरियां मिलते हैं।
And for that you have Nobel prizes, you have degrees, and you get jobs based on finding. I don't know what nritatva is. Let me just look. Nrita- Well, I think that's what I heard. Mhm. Oh,
Anthropology or something.
huh?
I think it means anthropologically.
Nri tattva. So Nri means man, and Tva is ness, so humanness. So in that sense, I suppose he's saying that, yeah, they're looking for humanness within the bones. And he is talking about the discipline of anthropology and archaeology, of paleoanthropology. Then, since Darwin identified evolution on the basis of the skeletal composition of animal bodies, even today, the evolution of humans, of humankind and humanness, is sought within the skeletal structures of human beings. This is something that was so absurd to me also, when I was studying anthropology in college, how, people, they kept coming up with different species of and subspecies of human beings when they dug up different sorts of fossils. And my question would be, how do you know there are different species? How do you know there are different subspecies? What is your basis of calling something human or not human? When what defines humanness is not established. How can you judge based on the thickness of their cheekbone or the height and width of their forehead or eyebrow ridges, whether they were human or not? And that was not something that was answered ever in the department. And that was the most absurd thing. Luckily, that was not archaeology, paleoanthropology was not the focus of studying humans anymore. And so I didn't have to get too bothered by it either in my department. But I remember when my second year I had visited Baba, and he asked me what are the anthropologists saying these days and what are they talking about? And I had tried to explain it a little bit, but his hearing was really bad by then, and my voice and manner of speech was very shy and low profile. So I don't think I was able to communicate much. But this critique is still, I mean, it still holds up because there is really no definition of what it means to be humans. I asked all the different department heads in our department, and no one had even thought about it. The ones who were honest said, "Oh, actually, I've never thought about it. What it means to be human. What is the defining criteria of humanness?" So when they started thinking about it, they'd have to go back to paleoanthropology, which those days had, it was mostly bones, but also going into genetics by then, which is it's not a huge leap from bones actually, since that's again the material composition of the body.
ये सब हम जानता हूँ, इन नृतत्व को खोजते हैं.
Even today, they search for humanness in the skeletal structure.
और उसके लिए नोबेल प्राइज होता है, डिग्रियां होते हैं, नौकरियां मिलते हैं, ये सब हम जानते.
And for that, you have Nobel Prizes, you have degrees, you get jobs. All this I know of that this exists.
इसमें हमको थोड़ी शंका है.
In this, I have no doubt about this.
किंतु अंदर क्या है, उनका विकास का ध्रुव है मानव शरीर.
However, what lies inside is that their basis for development into humans is the human body.
ठीक है. मानव शरीर में जो कुछ भी हड्डियों का रचना है, ढांचना.
All right. Now, within the human body, whatever the composition we have of our bones, of our skeleton,
जिसको कहा जाता है, वो ढचरा को आधार माना, हड्डी ढचरा को, उस हड्डी ढचरा में क्या खूबियां हुई है उसको बताया है.
That skeletal structure has been considered the basis, and that's the qualities or the features that have evolved in the skeleton is what gets described in great detail.
इसमें आप हमको तकलीफ होने की कोई प्रश्न भी नहीं.
And in this, there is no question of you or I having any difficulties with the fact that, they've gone on and detailed out the different features of human skeletal structure.
है. किंतु उसी के साथ महान तकलीफ यही है, यही मनुष्य का सर्वोपरि विकास है.
However, the great difficulty with that comes when it is claimed that that itself is the ultimate development or evolution of humans. This skeletal structure is the ultimate evolution of humankind. Now that becomes a big difficulty. So we have no problem, he says. Neither you nor I can have any problem with the fact that someone went out and detailed every feature of the human bones and the structure of the human bones. No problems with that. But when it is claimed that that itself is the ultimate human evolution, that skeletal structure is the ultimate human evolution, that is a big problem.
ये कहते हैं तो शरीर को तैयार करके मानव बन जाना था, ऐसा हुआ नहीं.
So if they say that it is the skeletal structure that defines humans, then they could have just prepared a human body and that would turn into a human, no problem.
मानव जैसा है वो मानव हड्डी की ढचरा के आधार पर व्याख्यायित होता नहीं है.
But the way that humans exist, they cannot be defined on the basis of their skeleton.
इस विधि से उसका गवाही यही है, वो स्वयं लिखते समय मैं स्वयं इस दायरे में हम स्वयं व्याख्यायित नहीं होता हूँ, वो खुद दे लिखा है.
And so now the testimony is this, that while writing himself, that he himself said, Darwin, that I myself am not defined within this purview. So he's describing evolution, and within his own writing, he states that, however, I cannot find myself being defined within this much purview of skeleton. So this Baba is saying is something Darwin has stated for himself.
इससे ज्यादा क्या कहना है?
So now, what more do I need to say about this?
आपको क्या कहना है?
And what more can you say about it?
वो जो ढचरा के आधार पर वो मानव को व्याख्यायित करने गए, इस ढचरा के अंदर तो हम स्वयं व्याख्यायित नहीं होता, ऐसा ही कहता है वो.
So the skeleton on the basis of which he went about trying to describe evolution, he says that he himself cannot be described on the basis of that skeleton.
उसके बाद क्या चाहते हैं?
So what more can you ask for beyond that? Darwin himself has put this out there.
वो मानव को व्याख्यायित करने में असमर्थ रहा, इस बात की सहमति उनके साथ भी जुड़ी हुई है.
That Darwin remained incapable of describing the human being. Even Darwin himself agreed with that.
अब विकास का क्या मतलब है? शरीर एक रचना विशेष है.
So now, what is meant by evolution or development? Now, the body is a special kind of composition.
Okay. रचना में श्रेष्ठतम रचना के बाद तो हो सकता है.
And within compositions, we can talk about a greater composition and the greatest composition.
विकास है कहा ले, हमको क्या तकलीफ है इसमें?
So if that is what you want to call evolution, call it evolution. What problem do I have with that? So if the name that you want to give to the order of the creations, in the sense of a simple creation, a more complex creation, a better creation, a better, up till then, a composition, sorry, not creation, a composition that is the best composition out there. If the name that you want to give this whole sequence of compositions is evolution, then sure, go ahead. What problem do I have if that's the word you want to choose for it?
उसमें भी तकलीफ नहीं है।
I have no problem with even that.
भाषा आप कुछ भी कर लो, किंतु रचना विधि में आप श्रेष्ठता को विकास कहते हैं।
Whatever language you may want to give it, but you are considering development within the manner of composition, nature of composition.
ये मेरा संबोधन की विधि ये बनता है।
So this is how I would articulate what you are saying, what Darwin is saying. That he is fine, what he is talking about is development in the composition, of the material composition of structures.
विकास जो होता है, विकास का ध्रुव बिंदु बनता है, वो जीवन है।
But what development truly is, the axis or the fulcrum of development is only the Jeevan.
जीवन यदि नहीं होता, शरीर से कुछ आप काम नहीं कर पाओगे। मरा जिंदा ये व्याख्या ही नहीं होती।
Had the Jeevan not existed, you would not have been able to do anything with the body. Whether the body is dead or alive would not have been, you could not have said anything about that if the Jeevan is not there.
तो ये जो मरा जिंदा का व्याख्या हर दिन आपके सम्मुख मेरे सम्मुख गुजरता ही है। इसके आधार पर आप स्वयं निर्णय ये ले सकते हैं, जो शरीर को जीवंत बनाने के लिए जो वस्तु है, यही जीवन है।
So on the basis of this dead or alive body, which is something that we witness every day, you and I, we witness this distinction every single day. On the basis of that, we can judge for ourselves that without the Jeevan keeping the body alive,
जीवन के बारे में पूरा कार्यक्रम, ये जो वस्तु है यही जीवन है। इस जो शरीर को जीवंत बनाने के लिए जो वस्तु है, यही जीवन है।
so the object that is responsible for keeping the body alive, that object is called the Jeevan.
इस जीवन के बारे में पूरा कार्यक्रम अभी 2 दिन में हम अपन प्रस्तुत किए हैं।
And it is regarding this Jeevan that I have presented the entire program over the last 2 days. Oh, it was just 2 days?
उसको सटीक अध्ययन करना चाहिए। अध्ययन के बाद कोई शंका होता है तो मुझसे पूछना चाहिए।
So that needs to be studied precisely. And if you have any doubts after studying that, then you should come and ask me.
उसको ठीक से समझने की जिज्ञासा होना चाहिए।
And then when you come ask me, you should also have the curiosity to understand it properly.
यही हमारा अपेक्षा है।
That is all that I expect.
इसलिए जीवन और शरीर के संयुक्त रूप में मानव है।
Therefore, human beings exist as a composite of the Jeevan and the body.
ना केवल शरीर के आधार पर भी मानव नहीं है, केवल जीवन के आधार पर भी मानव नहीं है।
Neither are we humans on the basis of just the body, nor are we humans on the basis of just the Jeevan. It is a composite of both.
इसीलिए जीवन और शरीर के संयुक्त रूप में हम मानव का संज्ञा पाते हैं।
Therefore, we find the name human being exists as a combination of the Jeevan and the body. Okay, we've gone past 4, so we should stop. But if you have any thoughts or questions, we can just take those as well. Anything?
No, I mean, it seems quite clear what he's saying. And it's interesting, that actually our level of satisfaction and our kind of feeling of completeness comes from a totally different place to where, like history is often defined man and the human. Like you were saying, it's like it's not the body and it's not the way it's been defined. And we don't find that acceptable. And Darwin didn't find that acceptable because he also felt much more than that.
Yeah. Interestingly, actually, well, the question was more about Darwin, so the materialistic definition of what you truly are. But even this last point is what I found most interesting, where he says, a human being is neither just the body nor just the Jeevan. So, that's also an important thing from the idealistic tradition, because he's saying we will find happiness or satisfaction only when we achieve the natural human objectives, the natural human goals. So, and the natural human goals are resolution within oneself, prosperity within the family, fearlessness and trust in society, and coexistence on the planetary level. And interestingly, all four of these are with the body and the Jeevan acting together. So, whereas in the materialistic realm, it was considered that the body is the end all. And so, satisfaction will be through development of the body or the extension of the body, accumulation of resources and whatnot. In the idealistic realm, it was the opposite. You leave the body, or you detach from the body, or close off from the body, and whatever different options beyond that. There was no consensus on what has to be done, but this detachment from the body was one of those. But here he's not talking about detachment nor about accumulation. He's talking about a harmony between the two, and therefore a harmony, the right utilization of the body and other resources to connect with all other people and become sociable and behavioral and just and orderly.
Yeah, true.
Chalo. Okay, then let's meet tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.